Welcome to Social Aloe Ministries, where we are committed to glorifying God while exposing the devil. I have never seen anyone prove God wrong, but I've seen many people try, and they've all failed. Warning signs are a gift from God, but as with any gift, we show the value of the gift based on our response. You may have noticed, driving on a highway, you may see a sign that says, lane closure up ahead. And usually because there's some construction going on. But traffic tends to slow down much slower than it has to, simply because many people, rather than merging at a first opportunity, they wait until the last minute, and that causes a bottleneck. In some cases, it causes worse and even further delays because of accidents. But the sign was a warning, and especially when it comes to God, your first warning may be your last. In Genesis 4, we see a story of Cain and Abel, and the Lord made something abundantly clear, a warning. And this is what happened. So in Genesis 4, starting verse 6, and the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? And by the way, whenever the Lord asks a person a question, he already knows the answer. It is for that individual to do some soul searching. And it doesn't make any sense to try to hide anything from the Lord. Like I said, he already knows. So the best thing is to do is to honest answer, or to give a honest answer. If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So the Lord was telling Cain that sin was crouching at his door, but he must rule over it. And it simply meant that if he continued down the path, it was going to lead to sin. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, again, the Lord's about to ask another question, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? Not a good thing. And he said, why hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. I pause because there are people who may be persecuting you. They may be doing so in a way that other people may not realize, failing to realize that the omniscient God, the God who knows everything, that he knows what is going on. So what Cain thought that he did privately, and basically no one knew about it, God knew. Abel's blood was crying out to the Lord from the ground. There are times when you're going through something, you're going through persecution, you're telling other people, but no one believes you. You don't need to convince anyone. Take it to the Lord and let him be the judge between you and your persecutors. And now thou art cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood in thy hand. When thou tillest the earth, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. So the Lord warned Cain. He was heading down a destructive path. Cain didn't heed the Lord's warning, killed his brother, and now the Lord's letting know Cain that life was going to be hard for him for the rest of his life. Farming was going to be hard, and says, a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Well, the Bible tells us nowadays that the wages of sin is death. But even not knowing that, when it comes to sin, we seldom look at the cost. before engaging in it. But when we have to reap what we've sown, a lot of us do like Cain and say this more than we can bear. But again, the Lord is gracious because he warns us. And that warning, that gift from God, it is something we have to accept. If not, we may fall into trouble. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. When the Lord warned Cain, it didn't truly sink in, but his judgment certainly did. Unfortunately, there are people who they will ignore the warning, and even when they're facing the judgment, will not respond appropriately, and they'll keep on going down that path. But there comes a time for final judgment. The Lord's judgment is final, and his decision is either to let you into heaven or to cast you into hell. And at that point in time, he can show you all the warning signs that you either missed or just blatantly chose to ignore. But let me flip to the New Testament and show you how some people responded to some warnings and how it was to their and even to our benefit. Please do not ignore the warning signs from the Lord. And I'll tell you, I was in a situation where when I look back, I wanted the Lord to warn me in a much stronger, much more clear way. But I do not blame the Lord for that, because there were certain warnings that came along that I didn't quite understand at the time. But the issue is, even if the Lord had clearly warned me at that time, there is a very good chance that I would have heard the Lord, but I would have kept on advancing so I could wait to see what he warned me about for it to unfold. But it's like trying to go across a lake that has been covered by ice, and you're not sure how thick the ice is. So you're treading lightly, going across the ice, rather than going back to the shore. And when it caves in on you, you have no one to blame for yourself, or but yourself, for staying on the potentially thin ice too long. But as a result of not receiving that strong warning that I sometimes said that I wanted, it has given me a much healthier respect for a warning from the Lord. It really doesn't matter when that warning comes or how it comes. As long as I realize that it's a warning from the Lord, nowadays I'm going to be much more responsive. Similarly to an antelope out there in the Serengeti with a lion prowling, or even a pride of lions. If the antelope hears basically like a snap of a twig, it may look up, but it's not going to go investigate why the twig was broken. Some antelopes, not only will they look up, they will get up and go. So as soon as they hear something, potential disaster, they're going to leave. They're not going to wait around to see how things unfold. They're just going to leave. And nowadays my mindset is such. As soon as I sense danger, I am not going to investigate. I'm not going to see how far things can go. Because a lot of times the Lord will give us a warning sign. We keep on going down that dangerous path, and we'll pray and ask the Lord to protect us. But that is what warnings are for. And sadly, while I was telling you that, the Lord gave me a message to give to someone, and while I was saying about ignoring the warning, that person came to mind. And I sincerely hope that individual did not ignore that warning. It is said that hindsight is 20/20, and usually whenever we look back is when we clearly see how the Lord tried to warn us. Some warnings are more clear than others, but it doesn't matter how clear the warning is. We have to take the Lord's words. Some cases we literally have to run. In In Matthew 2, we see some examples of how the Lord warned some individuals and how they responded appropriately. In Matthew 2, starting verse 12, and this was a wise man who came looking for Jesus. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. So the Lord warned them in a dream. The Lord still warns people in dreams. The situation that I mentioned, the Lord was actually warning me in a dream. And while I was being warned, that individual called me that morning, woke me up out of the dream. But when I woke up, I had my iPad by my bed, and there was a program on at the time about false prophets. The Lord was trying to warn me in a dream that a person was a false prophet. But the individual called me and woke me up. But even at the time when I woke up, I looked on my iPad and that program was playing. It was about false prophets. So even though the devil tried to stop it, the Lord still warned me in another way, but I simply did not catch it. But I found out later, and I learned my lesson. So I continue. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. And be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. Very clear. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. That's kind of like the antelope that I mentioned. Not waiting for further evidence to see how it unfolds. Just respond. Move quickly. And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth, and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled by which was spoken by Jeremiah, the prophet, saying, In Ramah there was a voice heard, lamentation and weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. Let me read it again. A lot of times in prophecies, we expect a detailed prophecy like what Samuel the seer gave to Saul. And we see this in the story in 1 Samuel 9 through 10. But in this it says, In Ramah there was a voice heard, lamentation and weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are not. The prophecy wasn't very specific, as in saying, when Jesus was born, Herod's going to kill children. No, it wasn't that specific. But it actually applied to that situation. And a lot of times, what the Lord tells us won't be very specific, but it applies to the situation. And we truly have to be in communion with the Lord, asking the Lord for further explanation if necessary, so that we can take the appropriate actions. And it continues, But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeareth in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead, which sought the young child's life. And he arose, and took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus did reign in Judea, in the room of his father Herod, he was afraid to go thither, notwithstanding, being warned of God in a dream. That is such a powerful thing to me, about being warned of God in a dream. regardless how the Lord warns you, please do not ignore him. So again, being warned of God in a dream, he turned aside into the parts of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. The Lord warns us in many ways. Those warnings are a gift from him to us. The consequences may be severe if we fail to heed those warnings. The Lord should only have to warn us once. Once we receive that message, it's up to us to respond appropriately. If not, we may suffer some serious consequences. There are times when things happen and people want to blame God, but when you look back, you will realize that he tried to warn you. Warnings are a gift from God. Handle those gifts with care.